Today, we are going on a journey through the incredible physical geography of South Africa. We're going to explore how this amazing landscape has not only shaped human history, but how it still shapes our lives every single day. All right, let's get into it. It seems like a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer? It's so much deeper. From the water we drink to the very places we decide to build our cities, the physical world is kind of a silent partner in all our choices. And in a country as diverse as South Africa, that story is absolutely fascinating. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a big bird's eye view. Then we'll zoom in and decode some of the key features. After that, we'll follow a river's journey from start to finish, see how all this connects to where people live, and finally take a look at our own impact on the land. First up, let's get that big picture. To really get a feel for South Africa's geography, you've got to understand its basic three-step structure, and it all hinges on one simple concept. And that concept is altitude. It's really just a word for how high a place is. We measure everything from sea level, which we call 0 meters. This idea is the key to unlocking the country's entire layout. Now, this is what I love. You can basically think of the country as a giant set of stairs. You start down at the coast, on the low, flat coastal plain. Then, bam, you hit the escarpment, which is this really dramatic, steep climb up. And once you've climbed that, you find yourself on this huge inland plateau, which is where a huge part of the country is. And speaking of high ground, the very highest point in the country is Thaba Nyalannya. And how great is this? In the Sesotho language, the name actually means beautiful little mountain. A pretty humble name for such a massive peak, right? Okay, so we've got the 30,000-foot view. Now, let's zoom in a bit. To really understand the landscape, we kind of need to learn its language. The basic building blocks that make it all up. So, mountains. They're the stars of that escarpment we were just talking about. But they're more than just high points on a map. They're these huge barriers that actually affect the weather. And for centuries, they decided where people could and couldn't travel. And tucked in between all those mountains, you find valleys. For as long as people have been around, these low-lying, fertile areas have been the lifeblood for farming and for building communities, all carved out by the very water that keeps them alive. Right, that water collects into rivers, and the one thing you have to remember about rivers is that they're always on a journey, thanks to gravity. In South Africa, that means most of the big rivers start way up high on that central plateau, and they carve these amazing paths through the escarpment on their way down to the ocean. And this is a brilliant example of how these features become a part of our culture. Cape Town's iconic Table Mountain gets its name because, well, it's got a flat top. And when the clouds roll in and cover it, everyone famously says it's putting on its tablecloth. This brings us perfectly to our next section. We're going to follow that water. We're going to trace the epic journey of a river system, all the way from its small beginnings to its final destination. So you can kind of think of a river's life in 4 main stages. It starts at the source, usually way up in the mountains. Then the land all around it, that's the catchment area, collects rain to feed it. On its way, smaller rivers, which we call tributaries, merge with it, making it bigger and stronger. And finally, the whole journey ends at the mouth, where it all flows out into the sea. And some parts of that journey are just spectacular. Take the Orange River, South Africa's largest. It's home to the Aggerby's Falls, and its name comes from a local word that means the place of great noise. And trust me, if you've ever heard the sheer power of those falls, you know exactly why. Okay, so now we get to the human element. Where do we fit into all of this? For this next part, we're going to explore that deep, deep connection between all these physical features and the most basic human choice of all. Where do we decide to live?
When you boil it down, it's always been about our basic needs. Think about it. People need water, right? So early hunter-gatherers lived near rivers. We need food, and rivers create fertile soil for farms. We need to build our homes and cities, so we tend to pick flat land because it's just easier. And of course, we go where the work is, near mines and other resources. It's a story as old as time.
But here's the thing. It is not a one-way street. For our final section, we're going to flip the script and look at how we, in turn, leave our own massive footprint on the physical world. This slide just captures that give-and-take relationship perfectly. The land shapes us. We settle near rivers to get water. But then we shape the land. We build these huge dams that completely change the way those rivers flow. We build on flat ground because it's easy, but then we go and carve tunnels and roads right through mountains to connect everything. And all of these actions, well, they have consequences. Building all our homes and roads can destroy natural habitats. The pesticides we use on farms can wash into the rivers. Our cars and factories create air pollution. Every single thing we do to make our lives easier leaves some kind of mark on the environment. So it all comes back to this. We've seen how the land of South Africa has written the story of its people for thousands of years. The question we really have to ask ourselves now is, as we keep building and growing, what kind of story is our generation going to leave behind on the land?